operating on a frequency of 52 megacycles by authority of the Federal Communications Commission. A test program follows. To you who've been trained technically, I need hardly say that there's still a number of problems to solve. I guess you know them as well as anybody knows them. But I think we've proceeded far enough to justify the statement, at least, that these technical problems are not insurmountable.
Shall we move on to the metrics for this week?
Yes.
So, as ever, thanks to Liptops for putting this together. I've not read it this week. Have we got a quiz at the end this week, Brett?
We do.
Awesome. So, let's start again. Format analysis. This week we'll be talking about which decks were chosen for each format, KOTE the opponent teams, and then with the different format types. So, what was the difference? The SAS, the house, or particular cards? So, let's see what we have here. Here we can see how composition of the decks played in each format vary from KOTE 9 average. So we're seeing the decks with the most upgrades were Archon. The decks with the least upgrades were Reversal. Now that surprises me. I'm not saying it's wrong. I never thought upgrades would be a factor. The rest, not that much of a factor.
I mean, with the lack of Worlds Collide and stuff like that, Worlds Collide and other more upgrade heavy sets having representation in this, in KOTE 9, it kind of makes sense. Mass Mutation, Call the Archon, and Call the Archons are the biggest sets here, and they're not big upgrade sets.
True.
Worlds Collide is a very big upgrade set, especially with Star Alliance. Dark Tidings a little bit more, a little bit less. But upgrades are kind of overshadowed. You don't really see too much in the way of upgrades.
But it's the fact that the decks with the least upgrades were Reversal, the decks with the most upgrades are Archon. That's the other thing here for me.
But that'll be probably reflecting how good they are.
Oh, well.
So it means that the majority of Worlds Collide and the going there along there were put into Reversal, whereas Archon was given more to decks which are going to be a bit hard to pilot because upgrades are very risky.
That is true.
If your opponent's on basically a creature control rampage, your upgrades have nowhere to go. It's not like an action where you can just throw it and get the Amber Pip anyway. You need a target for an upgrade.
Yeah, so let's move on. SAS metrics. So the KOTE 9 average was 73.9. The Archon average was 72.5. The Reversal was 75.0, which makes sense. And the Adaptive was 73.7. That doesn't surprise me too much. That's probably what I would expect to see. AELCs follow a similar pattern.
I would love to see what the highest and lowest for each one was. So what the highest SAS and lowest SAS that has been in Archon, been in Reversal, been in Adaptive.
It's gonna be... pardon me, sorry. So yeah, I mean, it's the outliers that are the interesting ones, but the pattern here is as I would expect to see, definitely.
We're definitely seeing teams bring 3 decks of similar power but more hard to control aspects. Looking at the raw amber, looking at the synergy and anti-synergy, they're all very similar across all 3 formats.
Yeah, definitely. And we always said when we put the format together is we expect people to bring 3 very similar decks or 2 overpowered and 1 terrible one, but that was only a couple of teams we've seen do that with. So the main SAS metrics here, so again, Reversal was more the Amber control decks, which is interesting. Adaptive was, I wouldn't say a flat line through halfway through.
Adaptive was very creature control-y.
I wouldn't say very, we're talking less like 4% more.
Well,
but,
I mean, compared to the other 2.
Yeah, compared to the other 2, definitely. And is that because they thought they could make use of it or exploit it? I mean, looking at this, you'd say a high Amber control deck is they're put chucked into Reversal, which makes sense because they want to play that themselves.
Having a lower, I'm looking at the efficiency barrier, and Adaptive had the lowest efficiency, which kind of makes sense. You want to put the deck that has a low efficiency into Adaptive, making those chains count for more impact.
That's definitely true. Definitely true. I mean, this for me isn't too surprising. It's very interesting to see.
Yeah, it's very close on the board. It's just the other for me that just out of nowhere, Archon has got great other.
Yeah, and the other two are terrible. So expansions. So this looks a fairly even split across the board. So
Along all of them as well, yeah.
I mean, yes, KOTE's higher for Archon than the others. Not too surprising there. Reversal is higher for mass mutations and Worlds Collide. That's a little bit of a surprise, but not a massive surprise. And adaptive is, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there's huge things there that would jump out at me. Once you factor in that Archon for KOTE is going to be higher, I think the rest of it just sort of fits together.
Mass mutation in adaptive makes a lot of sense. It's a lot harder to play than Call the Archons was.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it comes down to the decks and what the options were, but again, this just puts more to the fact of what I was saying of all three decks teams are bringing of similar power, because the averages are just are the same all the way through.
Definitely. Main stats metrics here. This is just sort of goes through what we had before. This is houses even. Ignore the title. So we're saying logo again. You can't really see any patterns here. You can see Untamed was slightly more common with Archon, and Shadows was slightly more common for Reversal.
It's really interesting to see that 19% of adaptive had logos, but it also had the lowest efficiency.
Yes, that's a valid point. That's very, very interesting.
That's the highest amount of logos by 0.1% in adaptive, and then you're seeing the second highest in reversal. So we're seeing this logo Shadows and this in both adaptive and reversal having the highest numbers, which to me makes a lot of sense.
I mean, but it's also the split. There's nothing run away here, really. It's all just so evenly matched across the board. Though you'll point out the efficiency is interesting.
Starlight's being lower than Saurian in reversal is a little bit interesting. But Saurian were very powerful in Worlds Collide and has maintained a bit more power in DT.
A bit.
It's very interesting to see. It's very interesting to see along going here. Unfathomable makes sense that it's such a small metric that it's not on there. Mars in reversal being the biggest is it's really interesting. Really interesting to see. I guess it comes down to more all the decks that were picked.
Yeah, I mean it's brilliant that we have such a large data set to look at here. I mean we're looking at 120 odd, 150 odd decks, so it's very over 5 rounds. So that makes this particularly interesting to me because we actually have a one of the best data sizes for where people have the same criteria to pick from week to week to week, and that's why this stuff is so interesting for me. It's just so it's the purest data we can get, short of running controlled scientific experiments on this stuff, which would be similar to what we're doing anyway. Right, we're out.